Listen to this episode if you feel like you're blending in your business everywhere you go, you're thinking about maybe rebranding, or you are just looking to level up your brand overall. Today, we're talking about one of my absolute favorite topics, which is branding. Branding goes so incredibly deep, and it's really what creates the attraction to your brand. It's really what creates the obsession around your brand. And overall, as we continue to develop as a society, branding is just getting that much more important. Today, we're going to discuss how to spot if your branding isn't doing its job right now, why trendy brands can actually hurt your sales and your growth, as well as how to know if it's time for you to do a little bit of a refresh. Now, today we're talking about branding in a deeper sense than just colors and fonts and things like that. We're talking about branding from an overall brand identity standpoint. What does your brand feel like when they come in contact with it? What do people really like? What are the adjectives that people would describe it as? And what is that tangible, almost like ecosystem? Or if you were to plan a party for your brand, what are the vibes? What are the aesthetics? And how are we really setting that scene? Before we dive too deep into it, I just want to take 10 quick seconds to say hello. If you're new here, my name is Madison Page. I am a business growth specialist, and I teach you how to turn your small business into a brand. And I like to teach in this fun, conversational type of way, not these like stuffy, over-scripted business podcasts. This is you and I sitting down as if we were sitting across from each other, sipping a coffee, chatting raw and real and genuine business growth advice. If that sounds up your alley, make sure that you're subscribed. We put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. You can watch us on YouTube, you can watch us on Spotify, as well as you can listen anywhere that you listen to podcasts. So first things first, I want to talk about the purpose of branding. I think a lot of times people think of branding as, oh, well, I picked my colors. Oh, well, we made a logo and I'm good. Like I have my brand name, I have my colors, and I have my logo. The amount of times that I have had clients send me a quote unquote brand identity guide that they had some branding specialist make for them that was just like, here's your color palette and here's your logo that you could make. That is not a brand. A brand is really the overall ecosystem that you are creating. I want you to think of your brand as if you were creating a movie character. What would you, if I were to say I want you to create a movie character, you would be like, okay, what is my character going to be? You're going to ask deeper questions. What is their tone of voice? Are they sweet? Are they sassy? Are they fun? Are they warm? Are they cold? Are they into spirituality? Are they into health? Are they like, what is this person? If I were to tell you need to develop a character, you would get very specific with it. This character feels this way, loves this way, hates this way. That's the same thing you have to do with your branding. We want to think of your brand as if it is its own aesthetic, as if it's its own thing. And so we're diving deeper than just, how to know if you need to change your colors. We're changing the overall vibe, aesthetics, and feeling of what it means to come in contact with your brand. The real job of a brand is to build trust, communicate the value, move people to buy, really magnetize the right people to you, and it helps you stand out in a crowded room. And this is why we want to talk about trends and if trendy brands are good or not today as well. Your brand needs to be more than just look good. Like it needs to magnetize. It needs to build obsession. It needs to get people to really see it and be like, oh my gosh, this is something that I absolutely need to be a part of. We've all had that experience, whether you're at a farmer's market or you're in the store or you're online or, somebody tags another brand in something and you go to their brand and you're like, holy cow, how have I never experienced this brand before? They seem like so me. So cool. I love that they do this. I love that they do that. That is what good branding does. Good branding doesn't just look good. It magnetizes people to it. It creates this like obsession that when people find you, they literally can't help themselves, but be drawn in and aligned and want to follow along and purchase from you from there. If your sales feel stuck, this episode might actually help you unlock that next breakthrough, which is branding. Now, you know, in everything that I teach, everything compounds. Like, business really does build on top of each other. So in order to know your branding, we do kind of need to know, of course, what your product is. We need to know who your ideal customer is. We need to know what separates you from, like, what is your differentiator? What is different about your product tangibly than everything else in order to really create a solid brand? And people that don't build an actual brand and they're just looking at, well, I use the same light pink color over and over again, and I have my 3 Canva fonts and I use them, but they're not actually digging deeper into that, making a feeling, making like a lifestyle behind their brand. You can really look at these, like, you can look at examples out there that are in the industry. Look at a Rode. Look at Rode. They did a really great job of building brand. Rode's brand is very clean. It's very Pilates princess. It's very, simple, minimalist. But then you can look at Benefit, which is the absolute opposite. And they are very bright and girly. And they kind of have that almost like caricature of almost like I don't know if it's the 80s or the 70s or the 60s. Your girl has no idea what time frame it was from, but it's almost like this cartoon character that goes along with the brand, kind of like that editorial 80s newspaper type of cartoon vibe. 2 very different brands. One is very modern, one is very minimalistic, one is very neutral, one feels very clean, one feels very elevated, and then Benefit feels a little bit more attainable, but it feels a little bit more fun, a little bit more playful, a little bit more kind of girly and feminine, at least in that sense. And they're creating similar products, but they're creating similar products, but the people that are naturally drawn to those 2 brands are going to be very different, just based on the things that you like and the things that you don't like. And that's what we're really talking about today. What does it feel like to come in contact with your brand? And so we're going to talk today, signs your brand isn't working, and diving into that. I have a list of 7 things here that might just kind of open up your mind, get a little curious. If you are experiencing these things, it might actually be from your branding that is holding people back. It is something that I work with, especially in my PTP, which is helping clients get to consistent sales in their business. They're not yet to kind of those consistent natural sales coming in. I would say we tweak at least 70% of their brands. I have done rebrands with big time businesses, and the rebrand alone is what finally gets them to disrupt their industry, because too often we just build brands that are just like every other business out there. And until we can really put your stake in the ground as this is what your brand is going to be for, that's when people can really start to really connect with you. So the first thing is that you're constantly getting price objections, or you're feeling like people are saying things are too expensive, or people are excited about your product, but then they never actually buy. The reason that price objections lead to branding is because it's your branding's job to create the expectation around your product and your pricing. It is your branding's job to set the scene as to what something should cost. So if you have something that is more of a luxury product, or at least a luxury price point within your industry, or more of a premium price point within your industry, yet your branding is not actually aligned with that price point, it's going to be really hard to actually charge a premium price, because people, when they come in contact with your product, are going to expect a different outcome. This can also go for if you don't have like a very professional image, yet your pricing is high and premium. I see this a lot with artists or handmade goods, is that people are creating something handmade that it takes them 12 hours, a bunch of love and care goes into it, but yet their price point has to be really high to account for all of their labor, but yet their marketing, their website, and their branding is kind of lackadaisically created. And so people don't expect it to be a very high value of what it is that they're actually purchasing. So if you're constantly getting price objections, it's probably because the value of your product is not actually being portrayed consciously or subconsciously within your branding. Your branding alone, look at Chanel, look at Louis Vuitton, they all have this very luxury style brand. Why? Is so they can attract a luxury style person, and they can really communicate that expectation right away. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to have a high fashion Chanel style brand, but you do need to have some more premium elements to your brand in order to make that happen. The next one is that you are constantly attracting the wrong audience. You feel like you're attracting people that are kind of interested, or they're lurking. They're kind of like the window shoppers. They're looking at it, they like it, but they're not actually moving. Again, branding creates obsession and it creates action. But if you don't have the details in the brand, I always say disruptive brands are built in the details. If you don't have those details, you'll get people to be semi-interested, but they won't actually ever convert. And how you get them to convert is really touch on those details, really step out from everything else that they can find in the market, and you'll actually attract the right audience. This can really lead to an increase in conversions really quickly. If you already have a community, if you have a couple thousand followers, whether it's 3, 8, 10, 20, but you're struggling to see the sales that you think that your brand really deserves, what that usually means is that you may have attracted the wrong audience. You also might be attracting just other business owners like yourself, and they're not actually attracting shoppers. That is a branding issue as well. The next one is that your visuals don't match your product quality. This is kind of like what I was just saying, is that it doesn't reflect your product quality or your product pricing that you have out there. But this really is a huge one. And I see a lot of people DIYing product photos, or honestly just like not even trying to take really high quality product photos, and the visuals behind their brand just don't look premium yet. When people come to you, they're just not feeling the attraction, right? This would be the equivalent of a date showing up in some sweatpants with their hair all disheveled and dirty, and you sit down and you're like, what? You couldn't at least put your best foot forward? You couldn't at least, do yourself up a little bit and have a little bit, put a cute little outfit on, at least take a shower, comb your hair? That's what you're doing if you are expecting people to pay, even a mid-level premium price for something, and your visuals are not there. 90% of people are visually motivated. That doesn't mean that visuals alone can help you grow your business fully. You do need strategy alongside of this. I talk about the difference between art versus strategy in business a lot, but your visuals do matter. They are going to attract the right person. Now, this doesn't mean that your visuals need to be, again, high fashion Chanel style. It just means that you need quality of media, quality of videos, quality of photos, doing photo shoots, having high quality videos. These things cannot just be whipped together. This also is showing more than just the product. I think a lot of times people think that if they just shove their product in people's faces, that people are just going to want your product enough. Your branding is what you're really selling. You hear me say this a lot. You are not selling your product, you're selling your brand. So your brand is the cozy vibes, is the casual element, the cabiny feel, whatever that might be for your brand. Maybe your brand is groovy and fun and playful and sassy. That is what your branding is. And you're selling people on your brand and your brand values and how much they love your brand, not really, the tangible elements of your product. And so when your visuals don't match that product quality, you're really selling off of just product, and that alone is not going to create a brand that disrupts. Your next one is that you're embarrassed to send people to your website. Now, I know that you are out there and you're chit-chatting with people. People ask you about your business and you're saying, oh, I have this business. People are like, oh my gosh, let me go check it out. And you're like, ugh, don't actually go to my Instagram. It's like so bad. I never really spend much time on it, even though you're posting, 5 times a week. You just aren't proud of what's actually out there. If you aren't obsessed with what you have, if you feel like you don't want to plaster your website or your feed on a billboard in New York City Times Square tomorrow, then it is not tweaked and refined enough. If you are embarrassed to put your profile out there, that probably goes back to the visuals and the aesthetics of what we have built. It's a little bit more lackadaisical. We need to put more energy into the actual overall branding. Now, once you get the brand photos, the brand videos, the brand foundations really set, branding is not hard. It's just you have to be able to identify the details of what that means that you are really building from a lifestyle perspective. What is the brand lifestyle behind your product? The next one is you haven't updated your messaging since your business was just a new little baby. Or when we're looking at your messaging really goes into your brands. Now, branding is so deep. People think it's just colors and fonts, but it's textures, it's accessories in photos, it's your messaging, it's the values that you're sharing. It's really, again, that ecosystem of what it feels like to come in contact with your brand. And your messaging is what really draws people in. So yes, the visuals matter, but that messaging is there as well. We have to look at, do you have some key phrases that you kind of go back to? Do you have some one-liners? They're called brand statements that you are constantly kind of repeating so people feel really connected to it. And if you haven't gone and checked your messaging or upgraded, or your messaging is just all about your products, like if you in your bio right now only have whatever hand poured candles or chic sunglasses for her, like if it is so tangibly exactly what you sell in your bio, in your captions, and there isn't any bit of like zhuzh, any sexiness to your messaging, we need to speak to your messaging as well. The next one is that your Instagram feed might be cute, but people rarely convert. So now this is on the other side. We've talked a lot about people that kind of lackadaisically throw their content together and it doesn't really have any aesthetic to it. Now we're talking about the people that have aesthetic. You have those visuals, but it's still not converting, because visuals alone are not going to actually sell to people. A lot of times, if your Instagram feed is cute, but it's not actually converting, that tells me that either A, your branding is very similar to a bunch of other people, so you're still kind of blending in, because cute alone and pretty alone is not going to help you stand out, because if there's other people being pretty and cute in the same way, you're just going to blend into the rest of the pretty and cute brands. And the other one is that you are cute and pretty, but without any strategy to it. And so I had a call today with somebody that was looking to join my Product to Profit program, and her brand was cute. She had a perfect aesthetic out there. I could totally see her neutral vibes, the organic vibes, the vintagey kind of feel to everything she was creating. But she said, Maddie, I have thousands of followers, but people are not converting. And that is still a branding issue, because her messaging, she's like, people just don't get why they should buy my products over the products that they're currently buying. Everybody's going to, more of these like fast kind of cheap options. Why don't they want to invest in the pieces that I have? And that's because her feed is pretty, but she didn't have a lot of strategy behind it. So we need some brand strategy, marketing strategy. And that kind of went back to that messaging perspective, because again, messaging builds into your brand. Last but not least, we're on number 7. You're relying on promotions and discounts to sell. If you need to majorly discount something in order to sell, that tells me that people, again, are not seeing the value of your product or the urgency for them to need to shop ASAP without some sort of discount. If people are only shopping when you have a sale, it's because your branding or your marketing isn't really communicating the overall value of your product. And so people only want to move when it's a little bit cheaper. This kind of goes back to that first one. So a quick recap: you're constantly getting price objections. You attract the wrong audience, that you're only getting lurkers and people to just kind of check it out. Your visuals don't really match the quality of what you're trying to sell. You're embarrassed to send people to your website. You haven't updated your messaging since your business day, like early days. Your Instagram feed is cute, but people are really struggling to convert. And you're relying on promotions and discounts to make sales. If you're doing all the right things, sales still feel like a grind. This might be the missing piece for you. The missing piece, if you aren't feeling like people are magnetized to you, or that you've really set yourself apart from everybody else in the industry, your branding is what we need to fix. And branding can come down to your packaging. It can come down to your messaging. There's so many different pieces here. This week I was on Instagram. I don't even know the name of the brand, but I remember their branding. I got a video that somebody was saying, I'm a natural peanut butter gal. I don't like the added additives into my peanut butter. I like the organic natural peanut butter. But I know if any of you are out there that like natural peanut butter, is that you spill the stinking oils everywhere, and it's so annoying and it's gross and it's like goopy. And I saw a brand this week say, hey, we remade our packaging to fix this issue. And it's like you store it upside down in the fridge, and then when you flip it back over to open it, and the packaging was just made for this purpose. I don't know the brand. I followed them on Instagram. You can go check out. It's some sort of peanut butter. And They literally they had this colorful brand, which they were already trying to differentiate in the peanut butter industry based on a colorful brand. However, it wasn't enough to really get them to stand out. So they added other elements. And again, disruptive brands are built in the details. Their detail was solving a very certain problem that people have with natural peanut butter. Even though their product is the exact same and people could still put the glass jar upside down in the fridge if they wanted to, this was solving an exact problem. They knew their consumers well enough, and their brand is now kind of transitioning into this detail of how their packaging is built to fix that problem. Now they've gone viral multiple times talking about that problem because they were really leaning into their brand value of really having that work for them. So we've kind of talked about the signs of having a brand. Now, I also want to talk about this idea of having a trendy brand. Hey, I'm jumping in here for 30 quick seconds for those of you listening and thinking, all right, but how do I actually apply this to my business? Every week here, I share strategies, case studies, growth mistakes to avoid, but your business growth is nuanced. So your business support has to be nuanced as well. That's why all of my support includes me inside of your business, your ideas, your launches, your content, perfecting what you're already building and uncovering your hidden opportunities to scale. This isn't a cookie cutter course. It's a high level personalized support system to help you optimize your brand, your strategy, and every single person your business touches. If you want my eyes and my brain on your branding, your sales, your marketing, and your overall growth plan, click the link in the show notes to apply. Let's see what we can build together. And this is because I've seen this a lot, whether it's within my industry with colleagues that are doing something similar to me, or within a lot of product-based industries as well. I don't think that trendy brands, like trends in general, are not evil. They're actually so good. You can really play off of them and gain a lot of traction. However, if there's something that should not be trendy in your business, it should not be your brand. Why? Because trends change. They leave, they go away, and they go out of style, and they get very outdated. What we're looking for within your brand is timelessness, is separation from everybody else. They can absolutely dilute your identity and make you feel like everybody else. If all of these brands, I feel like so many people right now are this like minimalist, kind of chic with like a serif, italicized font, and there's just nothing unique about them. Their trends go in waves. And so eventually, if you are on a trendy path in your branding, you're going to have to rebrand. Right now, I think a lot of the trends that I'm seeing are very bright and bold colors because so many people were very minimalist for so long and very modern. Now people are kind of going bright colors and kind of like a groovy font, a fun font, and maybe like a little caricature. I've seen that in so many brands, but that's what's disruptive right now. That is what people are doing right now. That is what's trendy right now because a couple of people started to do it and now more people are doing it because it worked for those first few. And you know what you'll see? In 3 to 5 years, all of those brands are going to have to start over with their brand recognition because they're going to have to rebrand because their brand looks outdated. So if we think about this, think about it like the disco balls. Oh my gosh, disco balls were everywhere like 2 to 3 years ago. There was a lot of like checkerboard there for a long time. If you think about this, think about it like the chevron and the mustaches of like, I don't even know when that was, 2012, 2015. Like we all can kind of cringe at the chevron everything that people had. That is the same for your brand. Now you can go back and really cringe at it. And for my industry, there's all of these people that are in blazers and in this black and white, highly curated, kind of like the bubble couches. And that is what everybody transitioned to. They saw a couple of people do it. They really liked it. All of the brand photos are the exact same. So that doesn't feel like me. I never wanted to attach to it. Of course, I felt pressures to. I bought a blazer. I bought some of the things that were in those photos to be like, okay, for my next brand photo shoot, I'm going to like lean into this, what everybody's doing, what all those like, the people that are huge and doing all of these things. I love it. It looks so cool. It's fresh. But now I've seen all of those businesses rebrand. Why? Is because it got oversaturated. It made them blend into everybody else. Everything they posted looked like every other stinking person out there. And now they were sick of it. It didn't feel like them. It wasn't actually who they were. Instead, we want to go for timeless. We want to go for, I mean, for me and my brand, which is a personal brand, it feels like me. Like my brand is cozy and cabiny and woodsy in an industry that I have never seen anybody else have a brand like mine. I did that on purpose because it's timeless. I don't see those things changing, and I don't see those things changing for me, and you don't see that out there. So it just allows for people to really fall into you more often. I think a really good example of this is Pretty Little Thing, which is a clothing brand. They had a cute brand and then they rebranded to look like absolutely everybody else. Their rebrand kind of looks like it was created in Canva, and it was just like kind of thrown together. They did this big rebrand after having all of this brand recognition. And honestly, I think it kind of fell flat because now they just rebranded to look like everybody else. It always kills me when I see a brand announce that they're rebranding and their rebrand just looks like the trendiest brands out there that already exist. And so some warning signs here that your brand is too trend driven is that your content, your packaging, and your website look like everybody else's, or you're constantly going back and looking at that like go-to brand in your industry, or that brand that you kind of aspire to be, and you're using the same messaging, you're using the same visuals. You feel like you need to rebrand every few years because it's getting old and you feel like everybody has done it. That means that you are building a brand based on what is trendy right now, not based on what is actually timeless for the values and the story that you are trying to build for your brand. I had a client come to me a couple of weeks ago, and I was auditing her website, and then I was looking at the industry leader within her audience, and her website literally could have been side by side with the exact layout of the homepage, with the exact style of photos, with the same style fonts, with the same colors and the same vibe as this other brand that people already look up to. I immediately went back to her and I said, hey, I don't know if this was intentional or not. It looks to be pretty intentional. You might not even be trying to imitate this brand, but what you're doing is you are just looking like another one of them. So somebody would tell you, hey, I found this new brand. It looks just like this other industry household name. And that is not actually separating you, even though you want to imitate them. If they're in your industry, if they are already a competitor of yours, why would you want to do absolutely everything that they are doing? You have to separate yourself. Trendy does not equal timeless or profitable. It's actually so expensive to rebrand, expensive in a monetary standpoint and in a business standpoint, because your brand recognition is something that goes away every single time that you rebrand. So what does a brand refresh actually look like, or a brand, a rebrand or something like that? I just want to say, this doesn't mean that you have to rebrand. If you don't feel like you have a brand, or you feel like you haven't really built anything it might just be a brand elevation or a brand refresh, meaning we can add more quality media to it. We can add more quality images. We can add more new messaging into it. Very few of my clients are we actually fully rebranding. A lot of times, some of them we do a lot of rebrands as well, but some of them is just like a pivot, is kind of just a refresh, is an elevation to everything that they're creating. We're adding custom packaging. We are adding better messaging to their content. We are revamping their website to look more professional, because your branding shows the legitimacy of your business. Your branding is what shows that first impression of, is this business legit? Do I trust it? Because people buy from brands that they trust. So first things first is I would look at your brand and say, does this communicate anything deeper than just like, look at my product, other than my product? Is there an actual brand image here? Next, are we looking at anything more than just colors that's communicating that, colors and fonts? The next one is do you feel like this separates you from everybody else that's creating something similar to you, or that's within your industry? If you're like no to all of those, it's time for either a rebrand or a brand refresh. The next thing is your messaging communicating value? Do you feel like the actual value of your product is being shared? Do you feel like people fully understand just how high quality or how incredible or how much your product can actually benefit them from your marketing? The next one is let's look at the quality of your visuals. Do you feel like people come in contact with your profile and they're like, oh, this is a brand, like this is, this new brand that's coming out? Or are they looking at it and being like, oh, somebody's selling their cute little handmade X, Y, and Z? Your branding can evolve with your business. It doesn't mean that you have to do a full rebrand. It doesn't mean you have to change the name of your business. It just means that your visuals, your feeling of your brand, the ecosystem that you're creating has to communicate the value and the warmth and the vibes that you're overall going for. It should always feel rooted in your mission, in your values. That is what your branding is all about. It's not just about, what is as trendy as possible right now. There's plenty of brands that have actually set the trend. You should go to be a trend. I don't even want you to be a trendsetter. I want you to be timeless. I want you to be in your own lane. I don't want you to go look at all of these other people within your industry and just pick different elements of what they're doing and do it on your brand as well. I had a company the other day that they're a self-tanner company, and I'm working with her inside a PTP. Again, my program to help you get to consistent sales and really disrupt your industry. And we looked at every other self-tanner company, and their brand was all beachy, all bright sunshine, and all like bikinis. And so I said, hey, let's not do that. What can we do for you? And we decided to take more of this like dinner party evening type of vibe. We decided to take this more everyday, day-to-day things. We don't have a bikini or a beach in sight in her brand because that's what everybody else is already doing. We want her tanner line to be known as, this other vibe, this vibe that you can wear anywhere that you are, no matter where you are, and it doesn't need to be beachy and in bikinis in order for you to do it. So we have photos that are her in a coffee shop, photos of her at a dinner party with her friends and watching the sunset, out for a hike, more day-to-day at work, like in a professional setting, more day-to-day normal things, because that is what people were not doing inside of her industry. So it does take really understanding what's going on in your industry. We have to look at it, but we're not looking at it to actually use their strategies. We're looking at it so we can do the opposite or something else. So a couple of last minute simple questions here before we wrap up to really audit your brand today. First things first, is it clear what I sell and who it's for? Does my audience know what my brand stands for? If not, if you're like, I don't even know what my brand stands for, I don't know what my brand values are, I don't know what my brand message is, we need to start there. Does my brand actually make people feel something different than other people? And is it actually more than just looking at my products? Am I differentiated from my competitors within my niche, within my ideal customer, within my industry? If I removed my logo, would people still know it's me? When you know you have a really good brand, is you can go beyond the normal. I used to use this example a lot, but if you think about this, is like if Nike created a hotel, what would that hotel look like? It would be industrial with like cement walls, probably a basketball court, kind of, open exposed pipes and beams. And it would be very industrial, but like there'd be things on the wall that's a little bit kind of like aggressive, like just do it, grit, things like that. Now, if we were to look at a hotel brand, if the Marriott was to build a tennis shoe, what would it look like? You're like, I don't know, white, maybe some green, who knows? Like that ugly fabric pattern that's on all of their carpeting. But that tells me that Nike has a really good brand image, whereas Marriott doesn't. They don't have a very good brand identity because you can't duplicate it in a different setting. So for you, if I were to take your brand right now and try to create something in a totally different industry, and I were to create like a line of notebooks or it doesn't even have to be like merch. I don't want it to be merch. It's something that is like another product. If we were to do that, can we do it? That means that would it be seamless? That means you have a good brand identity. If you're like, Maddie, I honestly don't even know if I were to try to create a clothing line, or if I were to throw a party for my brand, or if I were to create, a candle that smells like my company, I would have no idea how to even start there. That means that we have a weak brand identity and we need to start there. This is one of my favorite topics because it absolutely can revolutionize you. There are plenty of case studies of businesses that rebrand, and their rebrand actually allowed for their big disruption and for their big growth. Many household names that are out there right now started with a different name brand, started with a different brand in general. I want you to look at like RX bars. I want you to look at Halo Top ice cream. Like, go and look at some of these brands and where they started and now where they are. Everything is refined and it's been able to go through processes. Rebranding is not a failure. It is just a redirection to actually help you stand out. It's something that you absolutely need to do. I encourage you to do a brand audit this week. I encourage you to look at some of these signs. Are you happy with sending your brand and your website and your social over to other people? Can you answer some of these questions? If this is something that you are looking for support on, this is something I work on every single day with my clients inside of Product to Profit or within my strategic advisory. If you have any questions, as always, you can DM me on Instagram. You can just say support and I'd be happy to chat with you there. Otherwise, you can apply in the link in the show notes as well. I hope that this was helpful for you. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always. Get out there and let's refine your brand. If you found today's episode helpful and are looking for more tangible ways to grow your business, make sure you are subscribed to the show. If you want to dive deeper into this topic more, click the link in the show notes and join our completely free podcast community where we dive into every single podcast topic as well as give some bonus support and free coaching calls. And finally, if you are interested in getting my eyes on your business to find your hidden opportunities to scale, apply to work with me one-on-one in the show notes or on our website. Remember, it's not enough to listen. Don't forget to implement too. I love ya. I'll see you in the next episode.